She wasn't just robbed. Her life's work, priceless maps, replaced with fakes, one, by her own nephew while she recovered from a stroke, living under her roof. Imagine that betrayal, the sheer audacity, the cruelty. I'm Victoria, and you found the place where we talk about stories that matter, stories that often get hidden, stories of unbelievable lows and sometimes unbelievable fight-backs. Today's story, it's one of those. It comes from a woman I'll call Alina. Sharp, incredibly intelligent, a retired historian, but quiet, unassuming, someone you might underestimate. They certainly did, and they paid a price so steep, it's hard to fathom. This is about legacy, about trust shattered into a million pieces, and about a fury so cold, so precise it became a weapon. You have to hear this, how Alina turned the tables, completely. Subscribe right now. Click that button. Because you don't want to miss the moment the trap was sprung. Trust me. Okay, let me set the scene a little. Alina, she's in her late 70s when this nightmare begins, lived a life dedicated to history, specifically antique maps, cartography. Her house wasn't just a home, it was a private archive, filled with irreplaceable pieces, collected over decades. Her passion, her legacy. She'd recently suffered a significant stroke. Difficult recovery, physically demanding, mentally exhausting. She needed help. Round-the-clock care initially, then scaled-back assistance. Her nephew, Marcus, offered to move in, along with his wife Chloe. Marcus, always the underachiever in the family shadow, compared to Alina's quiet academic success. Chloe ran a small, struggling art gallery, always looking for an angle, an opportunity. They presented themselves as saviors, concerned family stepping up. Alina, isolated by her recovery, vulnerable, felt a surge of gratitude. Family, you trust family. Right, that trust was her first mistake. Now, I want you to hear the rest directly from Alina. I sat with her for hours, listening, sometimes just holding her hand as she paused. The anger was still there, beneath the surface, like a banked fire, but so was the steel, the unwavering resolve that saw her through. This is Alina's story, in her words, starting from when they moved in. A transition to Alina's voice perspective. They were attentive, at first, overly so, almost suffocating. Chloe fussed over my meals, my medication schedule. Marcus handled paperwork, bills, things my mind struggled with. Right after the stroke, everything was a blur. Fatigue, confusion, frustration at my own body, my own mind. They spoke in hushed tones. Don't worry, Aunt Alina, we'll handle everything. And I let them. What choice did I have? My world had shrunk to the walls of my house. Mostly my bedroom, my friends, wonderful people, but older themselves, kept at a slight distance by Marcus and Chloe. She needs rest, they'd say politely. The doctor insists on minimal visitors. Plausible, I suppose. I didn't question it. Too tired, too overwhelmed. My map room, my sanctuary, became a place I rarely visited. Too many stairs, too much effort. Marcus offered to organize it for me. Make sure everything is properly catalogued. Safe, he'd said. He knew my collection, always feigned an interest, asked questions, knew the key pieces. I remember feeling a pang of relief, someone who understood, who could care for my treasures while I couldn't. That was the plan, wasn't it? Their plan, all along. The first flicker, the first wrong note, was small. A comment I made about the Blue Atlas, its specific water damage stain, shaped like Italy. Marcus frowned. Italy, Aunt Alina, are you sure? I was just looking at it. Didn't see that. He brought it to me. Later, and there it was, the blue, but no Italy stain. See, he said gently. Your memory, it's playing tricks, common after a stroke. I felt foolish, confused. Maybe he was right. The fog in my head, it was real, but that stain, I knew that stain. I pushed the doubt away. Denial is a powerful sedative. Then, discrepancies with finances, small things, bills that seemed higher, investment statements I didn't quite recall authorizing changes to. Again, Marcus, patient, condescending. We consolidated things, Aunt Alina, made it simpler for you. Remember we discussed it. I didn't remember, not clearly. He'd show me papers, signatures that looked like mine, dated during that awful period right after the stroke, when I barely knew my own name, power of attorney, documents I had zero recollection of signing, giving him control. The gaslighting, it was subtle at first, then, relentless, every time I questioned something. My memory was blamed, my condition, Chloe would chime in, soothingly. Marcus is just trying to help, dear, let him take the burden. The burden, yes, they were taking it, and everything else too. They started having people over, Chloe's art world contacts, hushed viewings in my map room. Just showing off your amazing collection, Aunt Elena, Marcus would say. Chloe thinks some of her clients might appreciate the history. I felt a growing unease, a cold dread. Why were they showing my asterisk maps? In asterisk my asterisk house, without my explicit permission for each viewing. I tried to go into the map room one afternoon. Marcus intercepted me on the stairs. Whoa there, careful Aunt Elena, let me get you whatever you need. I just want to look at the Mercator, I said, feeling weak but determined. It's fine, perfectly safe, I checked it this morning. He steered me back towards my chair. You need to rest those legs. His hand on my arm felt less like support, more like restraint. The isolation deepened. Friends' calls went unanswered. Emails deleted before I saw them. Technical glitches, Marcus would say. Or maybe they just forgot to call back. I felt, adrift, unreal, like a ghost in my own home, and the maps I did see. When Marcus brought one out to cheer me up, they looked right, but felt wrong. The paper texture, the ink saturation, tiny details only decades of handling would reveal. My historian's eye, dulled by illness, started to sharpen. Fueled by suspicion, these weren't just any maps, they were my life, meticulously sourced, each with a story, a provenance, and some felt like strangers, wearing familiar clothes. Then came the day, the moment the fog fully cleared. Replaced by icy rage, I was supposed to be napping, upstairs, but I couldn't rest. The unease was too strong. I came down the back stairs. Slowly, quietly, my stick making almost no sound on the runner. I heard them. In the study, doors slightly ajar, Marcus and Chloe. Their voices weren't hushed or concerned now. They were sharp, greedy, triumphant. Sold the last of the speed maps yesterday, Marcus was saying. Good price, considering it was a rush job by Dimitri. Dimitri? Who was Dimitri? A buyer? No, the context felt wrong. Chloe laughed, a sound like breaking glass. His forgeries are getting better. Almost indistinguishable, unless you're some dusty old expert like her. My blood ran cold. Forgeries. And the bank loan using her identity finally came through, Marcus continued. Plenty to keep the gallery afloat and then some. Identity theft, loans in my name. Chloe lowered her voice slightly. What about the Ortelius? The one she keeps hidden? That's the real prize. Has to be worth a fortune. The Ortelius Theatrum Orbis Terrarum, my crown jewel, kept not in the map room, but in a specially built compartment behind my bedroom bookcase. They knew about it. How? I'd mentioned it idly. Years ago. Patience, my dear, Marcus said. His voice dripping with contempt. We need to handle this carefully. Can't have her suddenly becoming lucid. We keep emphasizing her memory issues. Maybe suggest a nice, secure facility soon for her own good. Suggest a facility. Get rid of me after they'd taken everything. And once she's safely tucked away, or maybe even declared incompetent, we find that Atlas. Sell it privately. No one will question us. Chloe sighed dramatically. It's just listening to her drone on about provenance and watermarks, pretending to care. It's exhausting. Thank God she's mostly out of it. Out of it. Oh, I wasn't out of it. Not anymore. I stood there, frozen, invisible, listening to them plot the final stages of my destruction. The theft, the forgeries, the identity fraud, the gaslighting, the plan to dispose of me. It wasn't just betrayal, it was eradication. They weren't just stealing my money. My legacy, they were stealing my life, my identity, my sanity. The shock wasn't grief this time. It wasn't despair. It was pure, unadulterated, glacial fury. Something inside me snapped, shifted, hardened. The frail old woman they thought they were manipulating vanished in that instant, replaced by someone they couldn't possibly imagine. Someone with a very particular set of skills, honed over 50 years, skills in research, authentication, tracing origins. Uncovering deception. They thought they were dealing with a victim. They had no idea. They had just declared war on a historian, and historians know how to dig. Brief narrator interjection. Victoria, can you even imagine, overhearing that, the calculated cruelty, the absolute contempt? Elena told me that in that moment, the fear was gone, completely replaced by this chilling clarity. She knew exactly what she had to do. It wasn't just about getting her things back. It was about dismantling them, piece by piece, using their own greed against them. This is where it gets truly intense, if you're finding this story as gripping as I did. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit that notification bell too, because the way Elena orchestrates her comeback, it's something else. Seriously. Click subscribe now, you need to hear the rest. Okay, back to Elena, the fight had just begun. Return to Elena's perspective. I crept back upstairs, my movements silent, precise. The rage was a physical thing, humming beneath my skin, but my mind was crystal clear, sharp, focused. They thought I was fadding. Good, let them think that. My weakness would become my shield, my supposed confusion, my camouflage, the first step. Information, evidence. They underestimated my recovery. The stroke affected my body. Yes, but my mind, it was healing, faster than they knew. Especially now, fueled by adrenaline and fury, I needed access to my own records, my own home, without suspicion. I started small, pretending to have good days and bad days with my memory. On good days, I'd ask seemingly innocent questions, reminisce about specific maps, specific financial decisions, carefully noting their scripted, dismissive answers, their subtle lies. On bad days, I'd feign confusion, letting them help me with my laptop, my phone, allowing them to reinforce their belief in my decline, while I observed, learned their passwords, noted their routines. My historian training kicked in. Documentation is everything. I started keeping a hidden journal, tiny handwriting, coded language only I understood, dates, times, discrepancies, fragments of overheard conversations. I needed my real financial records, not the doctored versions Marcus showed me. I remembered an old, very old email account I hadn't used in years, one they wouldn't know about. Late at night, when they thought I was asleep, I used a cheap burner tablet I'd ordered online months ago, a moment of foresight I barely recalled, and hidden, connecting through a neighbor's unsecured Wi-Fi signal. Risky, but necessary. I contacted my bank, my investment broker, directly, bypassing Marcus, using security questions he couldn't possibly know, related to my childhood. My academic work, the truth, when it came, was worse than I'd imagined. Accounts drained, investments liquidated, massive loans taken out against my name, my signature forged on guarantees, my identity stolen, used, violated. The paper trail was sickening, but it was asterisk proof, concrete proof. I downloaded everything securely, encrypted it, hid the tablet again. Next, the maps, my stolen legacy. Chloe mentioned Dimitri, the forger. Marcus confirmed selling the speed maps. My knowledge of the rare map world, my contacts, built over a lifetime, now became my secret weapon. I used my burner tablet, my old email, to reach out, cautiously, to trusted colleagues, dealers I'd known for decades, discreet inquiries. Had they seen specific maps come onto the market recently? Maps matching my stolen collection. It took time, patience, careful wording. Hinting at insurance queries or academic research. Slowly, painstakingly, information trickled back. Yes, a speed map here, a Mercator there, sold privately, often through obscure channels, sometimes linked back, tenuously, to Chloe's gallery connections, and the name Dmitry Popov surfaced, a known, highly skilled, but elusive forger operating out of Eastern Europe. His work was good, very good, but not perfect, especially on rush jobs. I needed to see the forgeries. Up close, I feigned a renewed interest in my collection, asked Marcus to bring specific maps to my room. For comfort, he obliged, condescendingly, humouring the old woman. I examined them, under the pretext of reminiscing, using a small magnifying glass I kept. My expert eye, now fully engaged, saw the telltale signs, microscopic inconsistencies in paper agging, slight variations in ink chemistry, watermark irregularities, things only I would likely spot. I documented everything, photographed details with a tiny spy camera pen, another discreet online purchase. They were creating a false reality. I was meticulously documenting the real one. The final piece, the Ortelius Atlas, the one they coveted, the one still safe, hidden, it would be the bait, the centerpiece of my trap. My plan formed, cold, calculated, ruthless. It wasn't just about recovery, or even justice anymore, it was about annihilation. Their complete and utter ruin, professionally, financially, personally. They used my vulnerability against me. I would use their greed, their arrogance. I needed allies. I couldn't do this alone. Not the final stage. I contacted my lawyer, Sarah, daughter of an old university friend. Sharp, tenacious, discreet, not through normal channels, but through a carefully worded letter, sent via a trusted former student who lived nearby, bypassing Marcus and Chloe entirely. We met secretly, outside my house, under the guise of a doctor's appointment Marcus arranged, but which I subtly redirected. I laid out the evidence, the journal, the financial records, the forgery analysis, the plan. Sarah's eyes widened, disbelief warring with professional focus, then steely determination. They won't know what hit them, Elena, she promised. We also needed the authorities, but timing was critical. We couldn't alert Marcus and Chloe prematurely. Sarah began liaising discreetly with the Financial Crimes Unit, the Art Fraud Division, building the case, waiting for my signal. My signal would be the Ortelius. I started talking about the Atlas, more frequently, wistfully. Oh, my beautiful Ortelius, I wonder if it's still safe. I'd murmur, seemingly to myself, but loud enough for them to overhear. I'd hint at its value, exaggerating slightly, feeding their avarice. I mentioned a specific, unique feature, a barely visible ink smudge on a particular page. Knowing the real one had it, knowing Dimitri's forgery, wouldn't, unless he'd seen the original. Which he hadn't. Then I confided in Marcus, during one of my confused moments. Marcus, dear, I worry about the Ortelius. Maybe you should check on it for me. Behind the bookcase in my room, the loose panel, I saw the flicker of triumph in his eyes, the barely suppressed excitement. He thought I was finally cracking completely. Handing him the key. Perfect. The trap was set. All the pieces were moving into place. Sarah had the legal and official side primed, ready to strike. I had gathered the evidence, identified the players, mapped their crimes. Now, it was time for the performance, the final act. I decided to arrange a private viewing. I told Marcus I'd been contacted by an old, very wealthy, very private collector, interested only in the Ortelius, offering an astronomical sum. He insists on absolute secrecy, anonymity, I whispered conspiratorially. He wants to see it, here, next Tuesday. Marcus and Chloe exchanged glances, pulsing with greed. This was it, their big score, delivered on a silver platter by the senile old fool herself, or so they thought. The collector, of course, didn't exist, but the appointment was very real. Sarah had arranged for 2 plainclothes officers, posing as appraisers accompanying the non-existent collector's agent, who would be unavoidably delayed naturally. She also arranged for hidden audio and video recording. Everywhere, my house, my stage, was ready. Tuesday arrived, a tense energy filled the house. Marcus and Chloe were practically vibrating with anticipation, fussing, making sure everything looked right. I played my part, frail, slightly confused, but excited about the sale. The appraisers arrived, sharp suits, serious expressions, carrying professional-looking cases, containing recording equipment, not valuation tools. The collector's agent sends his apologies, one said smoothly. He's been held up. But he empowered us to authenticate the piece and make a preliminary offer if it meets expectations. Perfectly plausible. Marcus, puffed up with self-importance, led the way to my bedroom, Chloe hovering behind. Aunt Elena insisted on showing you herself, he said, gesturing towards me. I leaned heavily on my stick, shuffled towards the bookcase, fumbled with the hidden panel, revealing the Ortelius Atlas in its secure niche. There it is, I breathed. Playing my role, my most treasured possession, Marcus carefully lifted it out, placed it on the small table we'd set up. The appraisers moved closer, examining it professionally. "Impressive," one murmured. "The condition seems excellent." Then, the key question, delivered casually. "We understand from preliminary discussions that some other pieces from this collection have recently changed hands to ensure clear title for our client. We need to verify the provenance chain." Marcus froze. Just for a second, Chloe's smile tightened. "Ah, yes," Marcus stammered, regaining his composure. "My aunt, due to her health, authorized me to manage certain disposals, consolidating her assets." He glanced at me, expecting my confused nod. I didn't give it to him. Instead, I looked directly at the lead appraiser, my voice suddenly clear, strong, unwavering. "That's incorrect, officer." The word officer hung in the air, heavy, shocking. Marcus's face went pale. Chloe gasped. "I authorized nothing," I continued, my voice gaining strength, the frail act dissolving completely. "My nephew, Marcus Thorne, and his wife, Chloe Thorne, systematically replaced my valuable maps with forgeries created by a man named Dmitry Popov." I saw sheer panic flash in their eyes. "They forged my signature on financial documents, including a power of attorney. While I was incapacitated, they drained my accounts, stole my investments, and used my identity to secure fraudulent loans." I pointed towards the Ortelius. "This is the only major piece they didn't manage to steal and replace, because I kept it hidden. They intended to sell it, after disposing of me, perhaps in a secure facility." The lead officer stepped forward, his demeanor shifting from appraiser to law enforcement. "Marcus Thorne, Chloe Thorne. You are under arrest." Chaos erupted. Shouting, denials, accusations. Chloe lunged towards the atlas, maybe to destroy it. The second officer blocked her easily. Marcus spluttered. "This is insane. She's confused. She's senile. Ask her doctor." Sarah, my lawyer, stepped into the room then, as planned, holding a thick file. "Actually, Marcus," she said calmly, we also have bank records, transaction histories, communication logs, expert analysis of the forgeries, sworn affidavits from the buyers of the asterisk reel maps you sold, and, I believe, recordings of this entire conversation, plus several others." She nodded towards the hidden cameras. The fight drained out of them, replaced by sheer unadulterated terror, realization. They weren't just caught, they were buried under an avalanche of meticulously gathered evidence. Their arrogance, their greed, their contempt for the confused old woman had blinded them, utterly, watching them being led away, handcuffed from my home, my sanctuary, that they had violated so profoundly. It wasn't joy I felt, not exactly. It was vindication, cold, hard, satisfying vindication. The historian had rewritten their ending. The fallout was brutal, just as I intended. Marcus and Chloe faced multiple charges: forgery, fraud, identity theft, elder exploitation, conspiracy. The evidence was overwhelming. The recordings, the financial trails, the testimony from the buyers of the stolen maps who were horrified to learn they'd bought stolen goods. Dmitry the forger was identified, though extradition proved difficult, but his reputation within certain circles was ruined. Chloe's gallery, already struggling, collapsed immediately, the scandal toxic. Her contacts evaporated overnight. Marcus lost his academic credentials, his reputation shredded, facing significant prison time. Their assets, cars, property bought with my stolen money, seized. Recovering the actual maps proved harder. Some were traced, recovered, others had vanished into private collections overseas. A painful, permanent loss, a scar on my legacy. But the financial restitution covered most of my monetary losses, though no amount could truly compensate for the violation. The terror, the betrayal, legal battles dragged on, appeals, attempts to discredit me, using my health. But Sarah was brilliant, anticipated every move, countered every lie. They tried to paint me as vengeful, unstable, but the evidence, the cold hard facts I had gathered, spoke louder than their desperate lies. Justice wasn't swift, but it was decisive, and harsh as it needed to be. Life afterwards, different, quieter. The house felt large, empty, but clean. Mine again. The trust, that easy open trust in family, in proclaimed affection, is gone, forever, a necessary shield, I suppose, but the fear is gone too, replaced by a quiet strength, a knowledge of my own resilience, my own capabilities. Even when pushed to the absolute limit, I established a small foundation, using some of the recovered funds, dedicated to the preservation and authentication of historical documents, helping others avoid the nightmare I endured, turning my pain into a protection for others. My real friends rallied around, horrified they'd been kept away, supportive, understanding. I still have my maps, the ones recovered, the ones they didn't take, and the Ortelius, my silent witness. Sometimes I sit in my study, the real maps around me, and I think about Marcus and Chloe. Not with pity, never pity, but with a chilling certainty. They picked the wrong historian to erase. They thought my knowledge was just dusty trivia, trapped in books and old paper. They didn't realize knowledge, especially specialized knowledge, combined with righteous fury, is a formidable weapon. They learned that, the hard way, my way. Transition back to narrator Victoria's perspective. Wow, just wow, Elena's story, the methodical way she turned her skills, her very essence, into the instruments of her vindication. It's extraordinary. The cold fury, the precision, the patience. It wasn't just about getting back what was hers. It was about delivering a consequence so absolute, so fitting to the crime. They tried to erase her legacy. She dismantled their entire lives, using evidence, logic, and their own blinding greed. Intellect as a weapon, fueled by justifiable rage, it's a potent combination, terrifying, but in this case, deeply satisfying. Don't you think? Was it justice? Or was it revenge? Does it matter? What Elena went through, the depth of that betrayal, it's almost unimaginable. Her fight back, equally intense. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Could you have done what Elena did? That level of calculation, that cold fire. Stories like Elena's, they need to be heard. They remind us that strength comes in many forms, often hidden, often underestimated. Thank you for being here, for listening, really listening. If this story moved you, or angered you, or made you think, please consider subscribing to the channel and sharing it with someone who might need to hear it. Your support helps me bring more of these important, often hidden, narratives to light. Until next time, take care. And remember, listen closely. Everyone has a story. Some are just waiting for the right moment to be told.